first-degree intentional homicide. I'm going to impose life imprisonment without the possibility of extended supervision.
We, the jury, do find the defendant as to count 1, first-degree murder, guilty.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of murder.
We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, find the defendant guilty of the crime of conspiracy to commit murder. Guilty of the crime of conspiracy to commit murder.
This is Diana Lovejoy, a mother and a wife who hired a hitman to take her husband's life.
I'm Diana Lovejoy, and quick meals are my specialty. I know that you don't have all day. We've got mouths to feed.
Lovejoy played the role of a perfect wife in front of her neighbors and on her own YouTube channel.
Welcome to my kitchen, where I really like to cook, but I'm often short on time, so speed is the hook.
But behind the scenes, her marriage was falling apart, and she was embroiled in a fierce custody battle with her husband, Greg Mulvihill.
They made a beautiful little boy, but once they conceived, that was the end of their marital relationship.
Lovejoy seemed to come out ahead with full custody, while her soon-to-be ex-husband was limited to supervised visits. But that was not enough, so she accused Greg of sexually assaulting their son to keep him from spending any time with the boy.
Mulvihill described a bitter custody battle in which he was accused of everything from drug use to sexual assault and molestation of their young son.
She also said that Greg abused her as well.
She had made accusations that he sexually assaulted her, was molesting the child, was a drug abuser.
Lovejoy's claims turned out to be false, and Greg was given equal custody of their child.
She wanted complete possession of that little boy.
To make matters worse, she was ordered to pay her husband $120,000 for his share of the family home.
She had 3 months to give him $120,000 cash.
On top of that, she also had to pay him $100 a month in child support. Lovejoy was not happy, so she found a less expensive exit. On September 1st, 2016, at roughly 11 p.m., Mulvihill got a call from someone claiming to have information about Diana Lovejoy.
That he had received a phone call at around 10:30 at night from an unknown number to him.
Mulvihill got a phone call from someone claiming to be a private investigator who had information on his estranged wife, and that person told him to go to a dirt road in Carlsbad.
The anonymous caller asked Mulvihill to meet him at an isolated trail in Carlsbad.
He went up a remote trail in Carlsbad the night of September 1st, 2016, out of desperation, fearing his ex might reopen their custody battle.
Desperate to get an upper hand in his legal battle with Lovejoy, Mulvihill agreed to meet the anonymous caller, but took some precautionary measures.
Mulvihill took a friend, a flashlight, and a small aluminum baseball bat, but he thought he was picking up documents from a private investigator.
Mulvihill was hiking up the trail when he noticed a light.
After the second time of shining the light on it and staring at it for a second, I realized I was looking at a barrel and a scope of a gun.
Then he felt something in his back.
Greg Mulvihill said he didn't realize he had been shot at first, and initially he thought he felt something in his back.
What he felt was the bullet leaving his body.
Before he knew what was happening, he was hit once on the side. The bullet came out the back.
Soon after Greg was shot, his friend called 911 to report what had happened.
Hello, this is 911.
Yeah. My friend has just been shot.
Do you know who shot him?
There's a guy lying down like a sniper.
A sniper? Did you see him at all?
Briefly, we saw the gun, and he shot at us like 6 or 7 times. He's really bleeding pretty black. My friend's getting lightheaded.
That's okay. I got paramedics en route, okay? How about officers en route? I got help out to you, okay?
Mulvihill's wife was informed about the incident, but she didn't seem to react much at all, which the detectives found suspicious.
Giggling just wasn't appropriate reaction to finding out the father of your child had just been shot and was in the hospital.
Mulvihill could have been killed, yet Lovejoy did not seem to be bothered by the whole thing.
It's not like he didn't get a life-threatening injury. We just happened to live in a time where we have excellent medical care, and he lived.
The detectives' suspicions were confirmed when they saw Lovejoy in a surveillance video from a nearby store. Lovejoy was buying a burner, and the burner's number matched that of the caller. When the detectives told Lovejoy about what they had found, she changed her story.
She tried to come up with a new version of events that had happened.
She said that she just wanted to scare Mulvihill, not kill him.
She also lets us know that there was eventually a plan to have Weldon McDavid scare her husband.
The man she hired to do the job was her gun instructor, Weldon McDavid Jr., who had previously appeared on TV for helping a woman defend herself.
Former Marine and firearms expert Weldon McDavid was the clerk that night.
I asked her, "Are you prepared to kill him?"
But this time, McDavid did more than just ask. He got involved with Lovejoy and even slept with her.
They had had sex one time, and she felt it was a mistake because he was married and had a brand new couple of month-old baby.
Lovejoy's defense was that she paid McDavid to scare her husband.
She told us that she'd given him $1,000 to scare her husband.
McDavid's defense was slightly different. He appeared to have no idea that Mulvihill was shot.
I'm asking you where you were at last, where you get shot. Why do you want me to tell you that?
During the interrogation, McDavid said that he was at home when the shooting occurred. But when asked to hand over his phone to prove it, his attitude changed.
Can you give me access to your phone to show that you were home by 11 o'clock?
No, I'm not going to do that because that's fine. Well, hey, so listen, that area...
You guys are trying to accuse me of something.
No, we're not.
Dude, well, yes, you are. Well, I'm trying to find out your version of events, and you're telling me I don't know, and I'm not giving you access to the only thing that you possess that shows where you were at.
Then he was told that his DNA was found at the crime scene.
Any reason why you would have any DNA in there? Now, DNA is something that doesn't just fly off and blow down the street. You have to go there to put it there.
But McDavid couldn't even identify the location.
Would you have been there?
I might have been there, right?
Why would you be here?
I don't know. I don't know what's there.
After a while, he remembered that he had gone jogging in the same area, which was quite a coincidence.
You went for a run back here?
Yeah.
Then McDavid surprised the investigators with a new insight.
I know what you're talking about.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. Explain it.
He had an explanation for why his DNA was at the crime scene.
I was on a dirt road, just running along, and I did have to. That explains it.
The detectives didn't buy McDavid's story that he just happened to poop where Mulvihill got shot.
How much of a coincidence do you think it would be knowing that the area that you took is the area that Greg was shot in?
They told McDavid that his DNA was on a towel present at the crime scene.
Did you wipe yourself? Did you use a towel or anything?
Yeah.
Where'd you get the towel?
It was there.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you sure you didn't get it from anywhere else?
I didn't get it from anywhere else. I saw the towels there.
By that time, the cops had already found a set of matching towels at Lovejoy's home. They also found the smoking gun alongside a huge arsenal of weapons at McDavid's own home. Lovejoy and McDavid were charged with attempted murder in the first degree and conspiracy to commit murder. By the time of the trial, the pair had sorted out their story and were on the same page. The plan was to scare Mulvihill and not kill him.
This is a conspiracy case where they, did this together.
I fired 6 shots in the air, and once they started running, I ceased fire.
But a key detail that went against the duo was provided by Mulvihill, who took the stand to describe how the shooter kept firing even when he was trying to run away.
I could see Jason, and he was probably 30 or so feet ahead of me, heading back towards the car. And while we were running, I heard about 6 more rapid gunshots.
If the plan was just to scare him, then why did McDavid keep shooting when Mulvihill was already scared enough to run away? Aside from debunking the scare tactic narrative, Mulvihill also described the moment he realized what was going on.
About the time I realized what I was looking at, it felt like I had been hit in the back.
Greg's friend also took the stand, describing how the bullets kept raining as the two tried to escape.
And we ran the other direction, away from the gun.
The prosecution's main argument was that McDavid didn't need to fire 6 rounds to scare Mulvihill.
The gunman, lying in the sniper position, shoots 6 to 7 more rounds.
McDavid's defense was a little weird. that if he had genuinely tried to kill Greg, then Greg would have been dead.
Marines are taught if they wanted to kill someone, 2 to the center, mass, 1 to the head.
Lovejoy brought up accusations that had already been debunked.
She said that she suspected that Mr. Mulvihill was molesting her boy. He had to go through numerous psychological evaluations. He had to see psychiatrists, psychologists, sex therapists. The unanimous conclusion was that this was made up, that he had not molested his little boy.
Investigators had already cleared Mulvihill's name and even deemed him a better parent than Lovejoy.
They ended up determining that actually he was the better parent of the two.
So you don't believe her?
Absolutely not.
Still, the duo kept slinging mud at him.
He was simply trying to help stop molestation of a 3-year-old.
The jury heard both sides and began deliberating. Then it was time to hear the verdict. Lovejoy did not seem ready.
In the Superior Court of the State of California, in and for the County of San Diego, the people of the State of California, same title, same cause. Verdict.
Her expression changed as she heard the verdict.
Diana Jean Lovejoy, guilty of the crime of conspiracy to commit murder in violation of Penal Code Section 182(a).
You could see Miss Lovejoy look over at her defense attorney and like, what happened? Like, just shocked disbelief.
Then, as McDavid's verdict was being read, this happened.
Verdict. We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Weldon K. McDavid, guilty of the crime of conspiracy to commit murder.
Lovejoy fainted, which led to the judge calling for a break.
All right, we're going to need to take a break.
The deputies tried to take her out of the courtroom, but she fell to the floor.
You're down. And if we could have, the jury go back into the
Lovejoy was ultimately taken out on a stretcher.
Okay, folks. Okay, at this point, we need to clear out the courtroom. Let's go.
Lovejoy was unconscious for a time, then taken to a hospital for treatment. Court was adjourned briefly, then back in session for the 2 verdicts to be read against McDavid.
At her sentencing, Diana tried to play the victim once again, saying she did what she did for her son's safety.
I still care about Greg, and as much as I did love him. I loved him a lot. And I really cared about him, and I still care about Greg. I was sexually abused, and I witnessed my son be molested once. And I did take all the steps I possibly could to ameliorate that situation.
She continued to malign her husband, even though the investigators had found him to be the better parent.
And he genuinely is a nice man.
McDavid also spoke at his sentencing, hoping for a lenient sentence.
I did not intend to shoot Mr. Mulvihill. I'm sorry that I shot Mr. Mulvihill. It was an aiming error, as I stated previously.
Once again, he argued that if he had tried to kill Greg, then Greg would not be alive.
If I had intended to kill Mr. Mulvihill, he would have been dead.
Then he turned on the waterworks.
I thought of my son growing up without a father. My father was killed. My father was killed when I was 24, and I still haven't gotten over that. I would not take a father from a child.
The duo's statements didn't sway the judge, who sentenced Lovejoy to
26 years to life.
McDavid, who pulled the trigger, got 50 years. When McDavid was interviewed in jail, he showed remorse, but only for cheating on his wife with Diana.
It was wholly unsatisfying. If I could only take back one thing, I would take that, out of the equation.
Being with Diana?
Yes.
The reporter then asked,
You wouldn't take back shooting Greg?
If there was only one thing I could take away, I would take that away, because I hurt my wife, and that means more to me than anything.
Diana Lovejoy got 26 years in prison for trying to get her husband killed. But what happens when a woman beheads her boyfriend? Like in the case of Taylor Schabusiness, who killed her boyfriend and chopped up his body.
We have cutting or sawing through chop mark injuries of the bones.
It is my medical opinion that this would have taken quite a great deal of time.
On February 23, 2022, Shad Therian's mother, Tara Pakinich, found a bucket in her basement. When she peeked inside, she was shocked to find the severed head of her 24-year-old son. Tara told her boyfriend, who immediately called 911.
County Public Safety, how may I help you?
My friend just woke me up and swears that she found her severed head of her son in the basement.
Eventually, she got on the line and was asked to describe what had happened.
Pretty positive my son's head is in a bucket right now.
Just like Tara's boyfriend, the operator was confused.
What makes you think that?
Because I looked in the bucket.
And what did you see?
Exactly what I told you.
He thought it could be a fake head.
You're sure it couldn't be like a fake head or something?
I'm not touching it. I'm not looking at it again.
Once Tara confirmed that the head was real, police officers arrived at her doorstep. It didn't take long for them to find the bucket. The officers couldn't believe their eyes and kept shining their flashlights into the bucket.
Hold on. That's real, right? That's real.
The officers also found a severed penis inside the same bucket. After a comprehensive search, they found multiple body parts, including Shad's torso, which was inside a storage tote. The detectives asked Shad's mother when she had last seen her son alive.
He was here a couple hours, then he left with Taylor.
When's the last time you saw him?
Well, he left with her.
That made Taylor Schabusiness the prime suspect.
Hi, Taylor. How's it going? Officer Russell with the Green Bay Police Department.
And when the officers found Schabusiness, her clothes were covered in blood. Shortly after, Schabusiness was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and mutilation of a corpse. In the interrogation room, Schabusiness was keen to share gruesome and graphic details of her crime.
You said that she played with his penis after he was dead. Was it erect?
She described the exact moment when things got out of hand.
The chain goes around his neck and he started choking him. And you just realized that he was going to die or what?
I think I went a little too far because I was blacking out while I was doing it, right? And then and then I look at him, I'm like, shit, he's already crippled. I'm like, I don't know if he's fucking, is he good? Is he good? But then when I woke up, during the blackout moment, I'm like, shit. He was coughing up blood. I'm like, I don't know, I just think I'm going.
She admitted to killing Shad by taking things too far, but denied having any intent to kill him.
Did you want Shad to be dead?
No, it was out of random. I wasn't expecting that, and it kind of threw me off guard.
Then she described how she mutilated Shad's body and got turned on in the process.
But when did you start, cutting up his body?
I don't know, almost right away. I was sucking and cutting at the same time. I grinded on him, I put the dick in his ass.
You grinded on?
Yeah.
However, her most shocking confession was that she played with her boyfriend's body for hours after killing him.
How long did you play with his body, you think?
2-3 hours.
Schabusiness's confession was just the beginning, as she would continue to surprise everyone with her antics in the courtroom. After she learned that her trial was pushed back on her attorney's request, Schabusiness asked him in front of the judge.
Stop it.
Multiple cameras captured what happened.
Stop it.
Schabusiness didn't go down easily and even tried a wrestling move on one of the deputies.
Stop it.
Rachel, call.
The situation was brought under control when backup arrived.
Is they bringing 7 in? Or, yeah, let's just go to secondary. We'll stand by there.
Taylor, can you walk?
A few minutes later, Schabusiness seemed to have forgotten what happened.
You went off on your attorney, Taylor. You went crazy on your attorney.
You can't do that.
You okay?
Yeah.
You're gonna stay here for a minute, all right?
Okay. Are you able to sit up, Taylor?
She can, Mom. She's gonna stay right where she's at.
All right.
After she calmed down, she was taken out of the courtroom in handcuffs.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Now slide back.
Yep.
All the way to the door.
Use your feet and just push back. There you go.
There you go. Perfect.
One more big one.
Is they bringing 7 in? Or, yeah, let's just go to secondary. We'll stand by.
Schabusiness's lawyer requested to be removed from the case. As the trial continued, Schabusiness showed no remorse in the courtroom.
That argument, the doctor could just simply describe everything, but the question is this going to be helpful to the jury?
Aside from laughing at the details of her crimes, she also laughed at her friend's choice of slang.
We were just chilling, chopping it up, like how we always do. And basically, I was like, Taylor was asking like, do you wanna hang out with Shad? She was asking me like for consent to hang out with Shad, to bring him over, and I was like, yeah, that's fine, it's cool.
Schabusiness's nonchalant attitude throughout her horrifying crimes was brought up.
There was genitalia in the bucket.
Let me stop you there.
And the list continued.
The doctor identified an object as a lung, yes.
Piece of liver.
He identified a liver.
Patella tendon.
The doctor showed me that and identified that.
Pieces of skin or fatty tissue.
Yes, sir.
An interrogator took the stand to tell the court how far Taylor had gone in desecrating her boyfriend's body.
In addition to the dismemberment, did Ms. Schabusiness discuss with you anything else that she did with Chad's body after she had killed him?
Yes, she did.
And what was that?
She had a dildo that she placed into Chad's mouth and to his anus.
He also mentioned how the killer had cuddled with Shad's headless body and even used a sex toy afterward.
That she also had cuddled the body.
The prosecution argued that Schabusiness had made the choices that led to the meth-fueled murder.
The case comes down to choices and responsibility. The defendant made a series of choices, February 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Choices to use methamphetamine, choices to kill her friend, Shad, choices to then utterly degrade him after the fact.
Jury members had gathered the day before to give their verdict on the original charges against the killer.
And my understanding is that the jury has reached a verdict. Is that correct? Yes. Right? If you would hand that to the bailiff then, please. First verdict reads as follows. We, the jury, find the defendant, Taylor Denise Schabusiness, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as charged in count 1 of the information. We, the jury, find the defendant, Taylor Denise Schabusiness, guilty of mutilating a corpse as charged in count 2 of the information. The next verdict reads, we, the jury, find the defendant, Taylor Denise Schabusiness, guilty of third-degree sexual assault as charged in count 3 of the information. After Schabusiness was found guilty on all counts, she was scheduled for sentencing 2 months later. During that time, Schabusiness had been disruptive in jail, so she was brought to her sentencing in a spit hood. So I have to consider the gravity of the offense, the character of the defendant, the need to protect the public, as well as other aggravating and mitigating circumstances. Shad's father, Michael Therion, delivered his impact statement.
I'm gonna miss Shad. He was a wonderful child too. Growing up, just mild-mannered and just happy.
But in a surprise development, he went on to forgive his son's killer while she continued to make a mockery of the whole thing. Just state your name for the record.
Michael Therion.
Okay, go ahead.
Taylor, I just wanted to say that I forgive you for what you done to my son. Yeah, you made a bad choice. and now you have to live with it.
Michael Therion went as far as requesting the judge to give Schabusiness a chance to get out of jail and return to society.
And I'm going to ask the judge if he can, if she can see the streets again sometime, I believe everybody makes bad choices, and maybe not to the scale, but I think there's a lot of hope for you. I think, you can make use of your time and be a better person.
Shad's uncle was not as forgiving when he took the stand.
If you could just tell me your name first, sir.
Kelly Therion. I basically just wanted to say that there's no excuse for what you've done. I don't care if it's drugs or upbringing.
He even had a new surname for Taylor.
Almost would be in the situation, but to take the cowardly path that you did and to make other people suffer because you were suffering is pretty shitty. So that name Taylor Schabusiness fits you well.
What he said at the end of his statement got applause from the courtroom.
After Judge Walsh here sentenced you today, I will pray that you meet the same fate as your idealistic Jeffrey Dahmer. So have a good life, shit business.
But none of this seemed to bother Schabusiness, who kept smirking.
The next speaker will be a statutory crime victim, so we'd ask the media to be advised of that, Judge.
After being silent throughout the trial, Schabusiness was given one last chance to speak.
So, Ms. Schabusiness, this is your opportunity to address me. If there's anything on your mind you'd like to say before I pass sentence.
No, there isn't.
Okay.
After that, Judge Thomas Walsh announced the sentence.
It's the decision of this court and the judgment of the law that Ms. Schabusiness be sentenced as follows. First-degree intentional homicide as a repeater. It's a Class A felony. Going to impose life imprisonment without the possibility of extended supervision. I believe that's appropriate in light of the findings that I've already made.
He went on to impose additional years in prison for the remaining counts.
Count 2, mutilation of a corpse as a repeater, a Class F felony, 7.5 years of initial confinement followed by 4 years of extended supervision. That'll be consecutive to count 1. Count 3, third-degree sexual assault as a repeater, Class G felony. I'm going to impose 3 years of initial confinement followed by 4 years of extended supervision. That will be consecutive to count 2 and count 1.
And just when you'd think Taylor's craziness would stop, she reportedly assaulted a prison sergeant at Tachita Correctional Institution. And when she was brought to court on battery charges for the alleged assault, she attacked her attorney once again.
And Judge, it sounds like just one witness. We're asking for a sequestration, but that may be a moot point.
All right.
It is one witness, Your Honor.
All right.
Just seconds earlier, she was completely calm and even smiling at her attorney.
Good morning, Gordon. How are you?
We're proceeding this one?
Yes. Good morning, Jayla. How are you?
But when the proceedings began and the attorney looked away, Schabusiness found her opportunity to take him by surprise. This time, the sheriff's deputies were ready and immediately jumped into action. And her attorney simply turned to the prosecution and signaled his lack of surprise. At this point, Schabusiness has attacked 2 lawyers and killed 1 man. But what happens when a killer stabs her ex-boyfriend to death?
That Mr. Alexander was stabbed. You would acknowledge that, right?
Yes. Like in the case of Jodi Arias, who stabbed her boyfriend 27 times before shooting him in the head.
And what's a girl to do after all? The guy that she was involved with up and died after she stabbed him, slit his throat, and shot him. What is she to do? Can't you see that it really isn't her fault? At least that's what she wants you to believe.
On June 4th, 2008, Travis Alexander was taking a shower in his home in Mesa, Arizona, when he was attacked by Arias. She stabbed him 27 times and slit his throat before shooting him in the head. Later testimony from medical examiner Kevin Horn would reveal that Alexander was alive when he was stabbed and his throat was slit open by Arias.
How about this one right here? Could you tell by looking at it and conducting an analysis whether or not this was done either before death, at the time of death, or after death?
I think it was done before death. There is hemorrhage associated with it.
In other words, the gunshot came much later, when Alexander was already dead.
Could this person have been dead at the time that the gunshot wound was inflicted?
That's possible, yes.
Alexander's death went undiscovered until he missed an important conference call. In the meantime, Aria kept calling Alexander and even left voicemails for the man she had killed.
I know Leslie called you, so I already talked to her, so you can call her back if you want, but it's not necessary. My phone died, so I wasn't getting back to anybody.
5 days later, Alexander's friends went to his home to check up on him. His roommate said that he hadn't seen him in days, but didn't suspect anything because Alexander was supposed to leave for Mexico. After finding a key to Alexander's bedroom, his friends entered and found large pools of blood. A few minutes later, they found Alexander's body in the shower. Moments later, they called 911.
What's going on? A friend of ours is dead in his bedroom. We hadn't heard from him for a while. We think he's dead. His roommate just went in there and...
Alexander's friends named Aria as a possible suspect since she had been stalking him online and in person and had slashed his car's tires.
Has he been threatened by anyone recently?
Yes, he has. Okay. He has an ex-girlfriend that's been bothering him and following him and slashing tires and things like that.
And do you know if he's ever reported it to the police?
Her name is Jodi. I don't know if he's ever reported. Hold on. Yeah. Ask her if he's ever reported Jodi to the police.
Alexander's home was declared a crime scene and searched by the police, who found a damaged digital camera in the washing machine. The cops were able to recover deleted images that showed Alexander and Arias together. Then they found a picture taken at 5:29 p.m. showing Alexander alive. The next few photos showed a bloody body. Bloody fingerprints from the crime scene matched with both Alexander and Arias. Jodi Arias was arrested and charged with murder in the first degree. Jodi was interrogated for hours across multiple days.
I just feel like if there was some way that I could have prevented it, there's some way that I could have done something to stop it. And I told that to a few people and they're like, well, you might have been killed too. Maybe, but maybe Travis would still be alive.
The interrogator brought up the issue she had with Travis, to which she had a strange response.
I've had worse issues with other people. They're all still alive. I'm still friends with my ex-boyfriends. They're all still alive.
Jodi denied any knowledge of what had happened to Travis until the interrogator revealed that police had pulled photos from the camera that she had tried to destroy.
And we can pull deleted photos. I don't care if you delete them 6 months ago. We can pull every photo that was ever on there. And I have pictures of you in Travis's bedroom with Travis, pictures of him. It's obvious you guys are having sex, taking photos of each other, and they're dated and time-stamped on the day he died.
Jodi denied being at the crime scene one last time.
Are you sure it's me? I mean, that because I was
Jodi,
not there.
It's you. And you know it's you.
Then the interrogator asked her point blank,
why did you choose to go visit Travis that day? And why did you do what you did?
As she continued to deny her involvement, the investigator mentioned other evidence all pointed towards Jodi.
I know you took pictures of him in the shower just before he died.
I don't think he would allow that.
And the camera actually took a couple of photos by accident during the time that he was being killed.
Jodi continued to act surprised.
Really?
Yeah, Jodi, really. You were there.
But Jodi was in no mood to quit playing games.
I did not hurt Travis. I wouldn't do that to him.
When the investigator reminded her that he had the pictures, she asked if she could see them.
We have the pictures.
Can I see the pictures?
That's when the interrogator reminded her that she could not explain away the mountain of evidence against her.
Jodi, this is over. This is absolutely over. You need to tell me the truth.
Listen, the truth is I did not hurt Travis.
But nothing he said could get Jodi to admit her role in Travis's death.
Saving the rest of your life is...
Listen, if I'm found guilty, I don't have a life. I'm not guilty. I didn't hurt Travis. If I hurt Travis, if I killed Travis, I would beg for the death penalty.
Even when the investigator opened up the possibility of someone else being there, Jodi denied being at the crime scene.
the whole time.
Was there anybody else with you at Travis's house on Wednesday the 4th?
I was not at Travis's house on Wednesday.
You were?
It seemed like Jodi was not going to budge, but in a subsequent interrogation, she came up with a completely different story.
What's going on? He's like, go get help, go get help. And I said, okay. And I turned around, there were 2 people there.
According to this new story, Jodi was not only there, but had actually seen Travis bleed out.
Did they say anything?
Yeah, the girl wanted to kill me too. He started coming in toward the bathroom too, and
What'd you do?
I ran, and he stopped me, but
Who stopped you?
and Travis.
Of course, none of this was true, and that became evident during her trial.
This love, well, she rewarded that love for Travis Victor Alexander by sticking a knife in his chest. And you know, he was a good man, according to her. And with regard to being a good man, well, she slit his throat as a reward for being a good man. And in terms of these blessings, well, she knocked the blessings out of him by putting a bullet in his head.
That was a strong opening statement from the prosecution, which kicked off a trial that turned into a spectacle.
I'm going to tie you to a tree and put it in your ass, by the way.
What's that?
I'm going to tie you to a tree and put it in your ass, by the way.
Oh my gosh. That is so debasing. I like it.
Apart from playing Jodi and Travis's sex tape in court, the prosecution also brought up his texts as evidence. Travis Alexander's ex, Deanna, took the stand and was asked some very specific questions.
And did he talk to you about blowing enormous loads every time?
No.
Did he ever ejaculate on your face?
No.
Did he ever call you a whore?
No.
Must have had a different relationship that he did with Miss Arias, correct?
Aside from questioning the nature of Jodi and Travis's relationship, the prosecutor also invited Travis's friend Mimi Hall to the stand.
She had slashed his tires several times. He had dated someone earlier that year. She had slashed her tires. She had sent threatening emails to both Travis and his girlfriend at the time. She had followed us on the first date that we went on. She would sneak into his house through the doggy door and sleep on his couch at night without him knowing that she was there.
Jodi Arias claimed that she had acted in self-defense, which the prosecution was not ready to buy.
I'm asking you whether or not you could see his face.
Not really, like he was kind of like...
Okay, so what you're saying then is that he is more like a bull rather than a linebacker because he's got his head down and he's charging like a bull with his head down. That's what you're saying, right? So if he's down in this position that you're talking about with his head down like that, how could he possibly know to come after you if he's looking down? How is he going to do? Feel his way around?
Ultimately, it was up to the jury to decide whether Jodi murdered her ex-boyfriend or killed him while defending herself.
The State of Arizona versus Jodi Arias, verdict, count 1. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn, in the above entitled action, upon our oaths, do find the defendant as to count 1, first-degree murder, guilty.
At her sentencing, Jodi had to hear from the family members of the man she had murdered.
My name is Stephen Alexander. Travis was my big brother. I was sleeping in after working a 12-hour graveyard shift in the Army. I woke up to the sound of my wife crying, walking up the stairs. I will never forget what she said. Samantha, I cannot tell him. You have to. My wife handed the phone to me. It was my sister Samantha. She was crying hysterically. She told me, Stephen, Travis is dead.
Samantha also spoke in court.
My name is Samantha Alexander. I am one of Travis's younger sisters. We have been at this trial every day. We have heard every detail about the crime and the injuries Travis suffered.
After the emotional statements from the victim's family, it was time for Jodi to speak.
I never meant to cause them so much pain. When Stephen said he read on Travis's 3x5 card that it said call Stephen and that he never got that call, I know that's because of me. And when Samantha showed us the last picture that she took with Travis, I know it's because of me that will always be the last picture that she'll ever take with Travis.
Finally, it was time for the judge to announce Jodi's sentence.
The court finds the mitigation presented is not sufficiently substantial to call for leniency and that a natural life sentence is appropriate. The defendant shall be incarcerated in the Department of Corrections for the rest of her natural life with no possibility of parole.
As Jodi was escorted out of the courtroom, she covered her face with a stack of envelopes.
Can you give me a reaction to the verdict, Jodi? Is there anything you want to say to the Alexander family at all?
Jodi's mother was more willing to talk to the press.
You dream of your daughter becoming a mom, walking down that aisle as a bride. Jodi's never going to see that. That's very hard for me because I come from a big family. My husband comes from a big family, and Jodi's not going to have the chance to ever experience that.
Jodi had talked to the media, but that was before she was sentenced.
I would much rather die sooner than later. Longevity runs in my family, and I don't want to spend the rest of my natural life in one place.
She said that she would rather die than spend the rest of her life in prison, but that doesn't change the fact that she will spend the rest of her life in jail.
The cell that is the same size and layout as the cell that Jodi Arias is in right now, and you see it sort of decorated with the kind of things that a prisoner would have.
Jodi Arias killed her ex-boyfriend and will spend the rest of her life in prison. But what happens when a killer stuffs her boyfriend in a suitcase while he is still alive?
At that point, it was funny. We were joking and laughing about it.
Like in the case of Sarah Boone, who suffocated her boyfriend to death in a suitcase.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
You.
Sarah.
You.
Sarah.
Stupid.
Sarah.
That's my name. Don't wear it up.
A lot happened prior to that moment, like Boone's boyfriend Jorge Torres getting arrested multiple times for domestic violence. Boone was also arrested once for strangling her boyfriend, but the charges against her were dropped. There was a temporary injunction order, but the dysfunctional relationship peaked on February 24th, 2020, when the couple got drunk and Boone convinced her boyfriend to get inside of a suitcase. All was well until it was time for Torres to get out, and Boone refused to open the suitcase.
Sarah, I can't breathe, babe.
That's on you.
Sarah, I can't breathe.
It's on you.
Torres begged Boone to unzip the suitcase, but she chose to record him plead.
Sarah.
That's my name. Don't wear it up.
Sarah, I can't breathe, babe.
The two videos that she recorded went on for 2.5 minutes.
Sarah, I can't breathe, babe. Seriously.
Yeah, that's when you do when you choke me.
Sarah, I can't breathe, babe.
Oh, that's what I feel like when you ching on me.
Sarah. Sarah.
Yeah.
But Torres' ordeal went on much longer, as Sarah Boone left him in the suitcase and went to sleep. Later, she called 911 to report her boyfriend's death.
Now tell me exactly what happened there.
My boyfriend and I were playing last night, and I put him in his case and we were playing, like kind of hide and seek kind of thing. So I fell asleep, and I woke up, and he was dead in the suitcase, so I don't know what happened.
Boone initially claimed that the death was the result of a game of hide and seek that went wrong.
And you found him in a suitcase, you said?
Yes, we were playing hide and seek last night. I fell asleep.
It didn't take long for the cops to reach her home, where Boone stuck by the hide and seek story.
We decided to play hide and seek, right? Okay. So he gets in the suitcase, okay? Who is this guy? That's my ex-husband, my former husband. How did he live here with you guys? No, I called him over here. Okay, okay. I didn't know what to do. Okay. I didn't know what to do. Okay. So then he came over here. Here, let's talk in private, okay? I called you guys. I tried giving him CPR. The problem is I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
Ultimately, the cops went through her phone with her consent.
Your phone's inside, correct? Yes. Does he have a phone? No. He doesn't have a phone. He used my phone. He uses your phone. Yeah, okay.
And inside, they found the evidence.
Sarah.
You.
Sarah.
You.
Sarah.
Stupid.
And when they pulled it up in the interrogation room, Sarah had some reservations.
Do I have to watch this? I continuously throw up. I don't sleep. I don't want to see it, if that's okay.
Well, it's on your phone, and you can either explain it or we take it for what it is.
We're just trying to give you the opportunity to tell us what's going on. That's it.
It's that long?
2 minutes. That's you, your voice.
The investigators then pointed out how Sarah had put effort into making her boyfriend's escape harder.
In order for him to have gotten into it,
it was flipped up.
Right. It was flipped up normal.
Yes.
Like as if you're packing something. So this is upside down.
Guys, this is killing me right now.
So this image is upside down. This small video that occurred 11 minutes later, it's flipped over the other way, closer to your dining room table.
Okay.
Now he's obviously still in there.
And her response to all of this was,
my intention was not to leave him in there. Please understand that. My intention was not to leave him in there.
The matter went to court, where none of Boone's attorneys seemed to stick around.
I can't effectively represent her. She doesn't trust me. She calls me a dud, I think, a buffoon. No one should have to endure that type of derogatory comments and expect to effectively represent someone, especially in a murder case.
After going through 8 attorneys, all of whom withdrew from representing her, Boone had to represent herself.
You have 62 days to prepare for trial.
In over 4 years, it comes down to me representing myself in 62 days.
I'm not going to answer that question.
During that appearance, she submitted documents to the judge, including a hand-drawn job ad for an attorney. That ad went viral, and ultimately an attorney named James Owens decided to represent Boone.
Sarah Boone needed a lawyer. I mean, I can't imagine our system. The case is an aberration.
Boone's attorney got her a deal where she would serve 15 years in exchange for pleading guilty to manslaughter. The deal was rejected by Boone, who went to trial where her position was that she suffered from battered woman syndrome.
Battered women's experiences affect her perception of imminent danger. Victims of repeat violence may fear death in a situation others would not.
But then, texts from her phone revealed premeditation and planning.
Does that mean it's from the device?
Yes.
What's the content of that text message?
And bless you, and all of you too, I'll get rid of him.
Videos from her phone captured her screaming at Torres.
You're despicable.
I'm not despicable. I'm not even doing anything.
Leave me alone.
Okay.
You get on your fucking little bike and go to fucking work tomorrow. Don't look at me. Don't come close to me. Don't touch me.
Boone also took the stand and admitted to hitting Torres with a baseball bat.
What's he getting out of the suitcase?
He very much was trying, yes.
And so what did you do?
For the split-second reaction that I had, I happened to see that, and I grabbed the baseball bat and was trying to poke his hand to go back in to please don't break through, please. So I hit his hand.
So the jury did not buy Boone's story that she was too scared of Torres to let him live.
The state of Florida versus Sarah Boone. Verdict. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of murder in the second degree as charged in the information.
At her sentencing, Torres' mother delivered an emotional impact statement.
My son is not here no more. She don't only kill my son, she killed a father, a brother, an uncle.
When it was Boone's chance to speak, she chose to make it as attention-grabbing as possible.
I forgive George for lying, for him trying in so many ways, so many times, to end me with his terrifying love. I also forgive the Torres family, his mother and father foremost, also his 2 ex-wives and daughters, all for knowing who George was, capable of, and has done in the past, his history of violence and where he learned it, then to keep turning a blind eye when I would ask for help.
Needless to say, there wasn't going to be an ounce of remorse in that statement.
In the end, I forgive myself for not choosing my life sooner, for not being more brave, vigilant, bolder, and outspoken, stronger, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
Finally, it was time for the judge to announce Boone's sentence.
Ms. Boone, court sentences you to life in the Department of Corrections. with credit time served that Madam Clerk will provide to you momentarily.
Sarah Boone filmed her boyfriend begging for his life as he suffocated to death. But how does that compare to a wife murdering her husband at his workplace?
And I wouldn't have been stunned if I'd been in the building and shot him.
Like in the case of Nancy Brophy, a romance writer who almost got away with killing her husband. On June 2nd, 2018, Daniel Brophy, a culinary instructor at Oregon Culinary Institute, went to work like every other day. But this day was going to be different. Not just for Brophy, but also his students. Later that morning, student Clorinda Perez entered the institute kitchen to find Daniel Brophy dead.
He was laying on the floor by the sink.
Brophy was shot twice, once in the back and another time in the chest. So whoever did it wanted him dead. No valuables were taken, which ruled out the possibility of a robbery gone south. This shocked everyone since the man had no enemies.
He was a friend to everybody out of the school, holding stuff on the weekends to help you learn more.
Brophy's wife Nancy was inconsolable when she learned that the love of her life was gone.
You gotta take one step at a time, okay?
I know. I'm sorry.
Just take it slow, and you know, there's nothing you can, just not a lot of things you can do right now. Your mind's going a million miles per hour. You want to pause.
Here's the terrible thing. Okay. Even if you find who shot him, it's not going to bring him back. And I want him back. That's the part I want. I don't care about who shot him. I just want him back. I don't want him dead.
And the detectives had a hard time finding a suspect to begin with until they received a call from Nancy.
I don't want to be the stupid question of the day, but I think I need to be the stupid question of the day. So my insurance company said, well, just have the detective write a letter that you're no longer a suspect. And I said, man, I just don't know that he's there. And I'm not sure that he looks at it that way. But if you do, I get you to write the letter.
The request surprised the detectives, who asked Brophy why she would need such a document.
Why would you need that?
Because they don't want to pay if it turns out that I secretly slipped down to the school and shot my husband.
After putting herself on the detective's radar, Nancy continued to dig herself into an even deeper hole.
We never would do something like that. I've never heard of that being done.
This is such a stupid little policy. I can't believe they're making me jump through the hoops like this. This is only $40,000. And as my sister said, you know, usually when they do that, it's for millions. And I said, yeah, we weren't insured for millions.
Turns out Brophy had multiple insurance policies out on Daniel's life and stood to make $1.4 million from his death.
Nancy made claims on 10 separate life insurance policies, in which she was the beneficiary of over $1.4 million. Detectives also discovered other financial incentives.
That alone was enough motive for the detectives to look deeper, and they didn't have to look for long before they found a blog post titled, "How to Murder Your Husband." Researching crime was a part of her job.
You will learn that research, especially hands-on research, is a big part of many writers' lives. Ms. Brophy has spent good money on night vision goggles, a telescope, and lots of locks.
But what was not a part of her job was showing up at her husband's workplace and not mentioning it to the detectives.
If the cell site location information put you at the school at 7:30 on May 17th, would you agree with that?
I'm not sure. And the reason why I'm not sure is, I'm just going to say I'm not sure.
Okay.
Investigators had been asking for surveillance videos from everyone in the area.
There is a possibility that somebody has a surveillance system that we didn't see their camera, so we do ask if you do have surveillance and you haven't been contacted by police to give us a call.
Eventually, they found traffic camera footage of Nancy's vehicle driving to and then leaving the culinary school during the 13-minute window in which Daniel was murdered. When asked about what she was up to, Nancy said that she was driving around writing.
You do agree that that is you at this point, right?
You know, I do. That's what I was doing, was driving around writing. I testified to that yesterday, that I would find a place to park and I'd jot down ideas.
She claimed to have no memory of what happened.
And I said I did not know.
Right. So if you do not know, you have no memory, of driving around downtown on the morning of June 2nd, how can you sit here today and say that I was driving around writing?
Because if I was down there, that's what I was doing.
She said that usually she got Starbucks, so maybe that was what she was doing on the morning of the murder.
If I was going to McMinnville, there's a Starbucks as I drive down 217 that I can hop off on.
But her card wasn't used at Starbucks that day, and Nancy had an explanation for that.
But there's no charge for Starbucks on the morning of June 2nd.
Yes, but if you go through my bank records, you will see there's no charge for Starbucks a lot of days when I know that I had coffee. You know, if I had cash, I could have paid cash. Keep in mind that I don't have my purse with me because I'm not carrying a purse. I'm not wearing a bra, so I don't have a credit card with me. I don't have my phone with me, so I would have had cash and just given it to him.
But how could she explain looking up untraceable ghost guns?
Ghost guns are available for purchase online. They are marketed as unserialized, unregistered, and untraceable firearms.
On top of that, the gun that she was researching and eventually obtained was the same model and make as the one used to kill Daniel Brophy.
This time she purchased a Glock 19 9mm ghost gun build kit. Those two shell casings had consistent markings as if they were fired from a Glock.
But Nancy's gun appeared to be unused. However, detectives found out that she had been purchasing parts of the same gun so that she could swap the barrel and make it look like the gun was never fired.
Now you take the slide barrel off? Well, yeah, of course. Because by the time she's here and she's sitting up there and she has to tell you that story to convince you that she's not guilty, she has to have a reason why that gun is out of battery.
In her defense, Nancy claimed that everything she did was for research.
And so now you're a gun collector?
No. Now I have a piece of writing information research.
The prosecution highlighted that Nancy's research was a little too expensive for a self-published author.
By the time you buy the eBay slide and barrel, you're upwards around $1,500.
Yet Nancy continued to insist that the gun parts she had purchased were for her writing.
You research everything to maybe come up with 6 sentences in a book that will make the book more realistic. So yeah, I do tons of research.
Then the prosecution asked why Nancy had been so private about her research.
Show her or go to a gun store and talk to them.
Because I wasn't ready to write the story yet. That would have come.
Nancy stuck by the research angle, but was the jury going to buy it?
It says, we, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled cause, do find our verdicts upon the counts submitted to us as follows. Count 1, murder in the second degree, guilty.
At Nancy's sentencing, students, friends, and family members of the victim delivered their statements.
You were part of our family for over 25 years. Was that relationship all deception? My heart breaks if this is true. We will never understand how you could decide that it was an advantage for you to take the life of our son.
Among those who spoke was the student who found his body.
His eyes were green, and they were utterly heartbroken. Utterly heartbroken because he knew. He knew because he's seen who did this. And I will forever have to live with those green, heartbroken eyes.
But the most scathing statement came from the victim's son.
Your largest financial contribution in the latter years was sending my father off to work an extra job so you could continue to pretend to be an author. My father possessed more knowledge, depth, accomplishments, recognition, and joy in life than a person as shallow and self-serving as yourself are capable of.
Finally, it was time for the judge to announce Nancy's sentence.
For the crime of murder in the second degree, the sentence is a life sentence. I'll order that you be considered for parole after 25 years.
Nancy is serving life in prison for killing her husband. But what happens when a killer shoots her ex-boyfriend and calls 911 on herself? Like in the case of Shayna Hubers, who murdered her boyfriend and then tried to talk her way to freedom.
And in the middle of him
doing something with his arm or saying something crazy. Shot him.
On October 12th, 2012, Ryan Poston was supposed to meet Audrey Bolt at a local bar. Bolt, who was also Miss Ohio, was waiting for the charming Poston to show up.
Were you excited to meet him?
Yes, of course. I was very much looking forward to it. Who wouldn't be looking forward to meet a lawyer from Cincinnati who's attractive, funny, and witty?
However, Ryan never showed.
I mean, I'm a girl, and so I was like, where is this guy? Like, where is he?
But he had a good reason not to show up. He had just been killed.
Campbell County 911. Ma'am, I killed my boyfriend in self-defense. What did you kill him with? A gun, a loaded gun in the house.
The woman on the phone is Shayna Hubers, Poston's ex-girlfriend, who had grown increasingly unstable after he decided to break up with her.
She would not let the relationship end. He was trying to end the relationship many times, and he was a little too nice about it because he never really wanted to hurt her feelings.
She had been possessive while the two dated and regularly accessed her boyfriend's Facebook account. And when Poston broke up with Shayna, she faked a medical emergency, but to no avail. Poston saw through the attempt and continued to keep his distance.
He said to me, "This is getting to be restraining order level crazy. I'm not kidding. You need to talk to her." She sent me 75 texts in the last hour. She's shown up at my condo like 3 times and refuses to leave each time.
While Shayna was trying to pester Poston into taking her back, he found an interesting match on Facebook.
We reconnected through Facebook, and then we started texting back and forth and then planned a date to meet up.
But what Poston did not know was that his ex was reading his Facebook messages and had added Bolt as a friend on her own profile. But Shayna's obsessive behavior reached new heights when she shot Poston and claimed self-defense.
A gun is in the house. I laid it on the bookshelf. Where are you? I'm standing about 10 feet from his dead body. Okay, are you sure that he is dead? He's dead, ma'am. He's completely dead. Okay.
In her 911 call, she repeatedly highlighted how she had acted in self-defense.
He's a lot bigger than me, and he picked me up, and I said, let me get my things at least if we're going to break up, and he threw me across the room.
She painted a picture of life and death struggle.
He beat me and tried to carry me out of the house, and I came back in to get my things, and he was right in front of me, and he reached down and grabbed the gun, and I grabbed it out of his hand and told him.
Naturally, the operator asked if Shayna was injured.
All right, do you need an ambulance? Have you been injured? I'm not injured, ma'am. I was thrown into the side of the couch.
This confused the operator.
So he slammed you into the couch, but you don't have any injuries? I don't have any injuries. I was just very frightened. He's a lot bigger than me. He's 6'3", 200 pounds. I'm 5'8", 120.
Aside from highlighting Poston's size, Shayna also accused him of domestic violence.
Okay, have you had a history of domestic violence with him? Yes. Okay, and is this your gun? No, this is his gun. He keeps loaded guns in the house.
Poston was indeed a gun enthusiast who could have been easily painted as an aggressive assailant, but Shayna's inability to stay silent weakened her case.
Because he was twitching and I knew he was going to die anyway, and he was making funny noises. I shot him a couple more times just to kill him because I knew he would have been. I'm sorry, you said you shot him a couple more times after that? Yeah. How many times did you shoot him total? I don't know. Okay.
In the interrogation room, Shayna talked so much that the interrogators had to take turns interviewing her just to catch a break.
He was twitching, he was moaning, but he was ultimately dead. And so I shot him enough times to kill him.
But the most bizarre aspect of it all was how Shayna behaved when no one was in the room. She was in tears in front of the interrogators.
It was so painful to watch him die and to know that I had done that. That I just walked around the table and shot him where I knew he would die immediately.
But the moment they left,
I did. Yes, I did.
one point, she got bold enough to make fun of how she shot Poston in the nose.
Just that kind of person, and I shot him right here. I gave him his nose job. He wanted.
She also clarified that she was not your typical murderer.
I'm not your typical murderer. No, not someone that you see on. He said you're just a hillbilly from Kentucky, and I am. That's the hillbilly came out of me.
The case went to trial, where Shayna was advised to use the insanity defense. But she said that she was too smart to claim insanity because she had the IQ of Einstein.
She said she was going to plead insanity, but then she said that she was too smart because she has an IQ of Einstein, up to the IQ of Einstein, and so she's going to plead the wife battered syndrome.
But police testimony revealed that Shayna had been thinking about killing Ryan for a while.
And what does she say to her friend right after she calls Ryan Poston an evil person?
She says when she goes to the shooting range with Ryan tonight, she wants to turn around, shoot and kill him and play like it's an accident.
Both sides used the couple's dramatic texts to present their case, but the final decision was up to the jury.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Shayna Hubers, guilty of murder under instruction number 3.
On the day of her sentencing, Shayna got a chance to speak.
It was never about Ryan's family. It was never about them. I don't mean to hurt anyone else. I never meant to hurt anyone else.
But the judge did not believe that she had any remorse.
But I listened to everything that was said in here. I never heard a word or a look that said, I'm sorry to these people.
After that, Shayna was sentenced to 40 years in prison. Then there was a twist. One of the jury members in Shayna's trial was revealed to have a felony on their record. So Shayna's conviction was overturned, and she was granted a new trial.
A young woman convicted of killing her on and off again boyfriend will get a new shot at freedom.
And it's all because one juror didn't pay child support more than 2 decades ago.
This was big news, but Shayna had repeatedly been in the news for all kinds of reasons. On June 7th, 2018, Shayna married a transgender inmate named Unique Taylor.
I didn't meet Unique, he, she, until that summer. Right. To me, I don't see Unique as a gender. I don't see Unique as a man or a woman. I see Unique as a soul that I love.
Shayna's retrial began on August 8th, 2018. And this time, she decided to take the stand and tell her story.
I feared him. I felt like I needed to do what he was telling me to do.
The prosecution highlighted inconsistencies, including the fact that Shayna cried in front of the interrogators, laughed when she thought no one was watching.
The laugh came when she thought that everybody was just going to believe her show. They were just going to believe her story.
Ryan's dad also took the stand.
The status was my son wanted her not to be around, and the status was she kept coming around. And I said, if you leave now, maybe in the future, you two can get together, because I have found that life is about timing. And I said, and your timing is just not right.
Shayna's mental health was brought up, and it was revealed that she had borderline personality disorder.
At the time she shot Mr. Poston in 2012, Ms. Hubers' psychological condition was seriously abnormal.
The witness from her side went as far as blaming her childhood problems for her actions as an adult.
Never had a healthy relationship. How relationships go affects the rest of her life. Bad relationship with dad growing up. Always thought needed a man to be complete.
But that doesn't justify murder. So she was found guilty once again as she cried with her head buried in the arms of one of her attorneys.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Shayna Hubers, guilty of murder.
And this time sentenced to life in prison.
It is therefore the judgment of this court that you, Shayna Hubers, are hereby sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of Ryan Poston.
Some might call it a tough sentence, but it's hardly fair if you compare it to the pain Shayna caused to Ryan's family.
Your daughter is sitting right there, breathing, laughing, and speaking. She may one day sit at your table for your Thanksgiving meal. Meanwhile, I wake in the middle of the night, every night, anguishing that I may forget the sound of my son's voice, the warmth of his embrace.
That was Ryan's dad. And earlier, Ryan's sister showed the court what she had left of her brother, a teddy bear made from his shirt.
This teddy bear was made by Jay's sister. This is Ryan's shirt.
And while she was holding the bear, its voice box got triggered, playing Ryan's voicemail.
That's it. That's all we have.
Shayna Hubers will be eligible for parole, but not until 2032. Shayna Hubers killed her boyfriend out of jealousy and got life in prison. On what happens when a killer goes after her lover's wife.
Was he acting kind of squirrely or kind of sneaking around when he'd hook up with you or anything like that?
Like in the case of Stephanie Lazarus, an LAPD cop who used her work expertise to get rid of her romantic competition.
Stephanie Lazarus appeared at Sherry Rasmussen's place of work at Glendale Adventist and told Sherry Rasmussen, "If I cannot have John, nobody can."
Stephanie met John Rutan at UCLA in the 1970s, where the two were enrolled in separate programs. While the relationship did not pan out, the two continued to have an on-again, off-again sort of thing that was more physical than romantic. Stephanie went on to get a job with the LAPD, while John became an engineer. Ultimately, he decided that he needed to move on and settle down, so he made a clean break with Stephanie. Then he met Sherry Rasmussen in the summer of 1984 and got engaged to her soon after. Lazarus was not happy about this and started meeting John more often. She even talked to Sherry and claimed that John was still seeing her.
Some of Sherry's friends said that you and her were having a problem because of the John situation.
This was true, as John had sex with Stephanie while engaged to Sherry. Sherry was upset about Stephanie's ruthless pursuit to sabotage her relationship, but John assured her that nothing would come between them, and the two got married. It was a happy time for everyone except Lazarus, who had hoped to win John back. But John had eyes for only one woman, his wife, Sherry Rasmussen.
You could tell that they were in love. She was just beginning her life. She'd met the man of her dreams, and she had a great job, and she was doing very well, and it was all coming together.
And it seemed like things were going on the right track.
Uncle John and Aunt Sherry are spending Christmas with Rachel on her first Christmas.
But then, everything changed.
3 months later, and now it was all gone. It's like being hit by a train. I don't usually talk about that day or that time.
On the evening of February 24th, 1986, John Rutan returned home to find the garage door open with broken glass in the driveway. In the living room, John found his wife dead with 3 bullet wounds.
What was the first thing you saw?
Well, I saw Sherry lying it's right in front of me when I walked in the door. I saw her lying on the ground. I knew right away that she was dead.
The subsequent autopsy revealed that Sherry had put up a fight and had defensive wounds. It seemed like someone had tried to tie her up. LAPD detectives did not seem to have a suspect, and the case went cold.
And I want you to know that Sherry was the best professional in the world. She was the best wife that anybody could ever have, and she was the best sister, daughter. She wanted to make everybody happy.
Even though Sherry's parents singled out Lazarus as the potential killer, no one bothered to investigate her.
The investigation in 1986 is a completely different story, and the family has numerous questions about what was done during that time period.
The cops' consensus seemed to be that a male assailant had killed Rasmussen in an escalated robbery.
I assumed it was going to be burglars, male burglar.
Lazarus continued to work at the LAPD, where she had unfettered access to all of the case files related to Sherry's unsolved murder. Meanwhile, Sherry's parents continued to seek justice because they did not believe that Sherry had died in a robbery.
How soon was it after the murder that your father and your mother started to think that maybe this wasn't a robbery like police were saying?
The very day we went to the Van Nuys Police Department.
That first day?
It didn't make sense that they wouldn't take anything other than the car.
But despite her family's best efforts, Sherry's case went cold.
Why does a case like this go cold for so long?
Manpower. priorities within the police department.
However, it got a new life with the advent of DNA testing. A new criminologist, Jennifer Francis, was able to use new technology to examine the suspect's saliva, which turned out to belong to a female.
She informed me that I obtained a DNA profile. I assumed it was going to be burglars, male burglars. A female? Who is she?
Once you got the DNA, you realized it was a woman. Were you curious about the fact that a woman might have been involved?
I was curious what woman.
So Jennifer ruled out the male burglar theory and started digging through Sherry's case files, where she found one reference to a woman.
And it's a notation along the lines of John Rudden called Stephanie Lazarus P/O, ex-girlfriend.
I gave him the name and I said she's a police officer.
Jennifer decided to pursue this angle with supervising detective John Nuttall, who put Lazarus under covert surveillance.
As luck would have it, she went to Costco a couple days after the surveillance had started, and she had a drink. And once she discarded that drink, the officers were able to collect her cup without her knowing it.
The next step was to see if Stephanie's sample would match the one from the crime scene.
What did they get?
They matched her DNA to the bite mark sample.
It was clear Stephanie was the killer. But since Lazarus was an active cop with a firearm, the special unit laid out a plan to separate her from her gun.
One of the detectives approaches Stephanie one day in her office, and he says something to the effect of, "You know, Stephanie, we've got this suspect who seems to know about some big art heist. He's down in the lockup."
She went to the lockup expecting to see the suspect.
Instead, it was just another detective. And so that was the stage that was set for that interview.
She'd already surrendered her weapon as a part of the standard procedure. And now, instead of interrogating someone, she was the one being interrogated.
Do you know John Rutten?
John Rutten?
Rutten.
Oh, yeah, I went to school with him.
You did?
Yeah.
As the questions got more pointed, her memory began to fail her.
You don't remember specifically ever going over to visit him or visit them and wherever he moved when he left Roscoe?
I honestly, I don't know. I don't think so.
She did remember learning about Sherry's death, but wasn't sure how.
I faintly remember a bulletin going around. Either that or somebody called me. I honestly don't remember.
Right.
And then I probably called his family.
Lazarus insisted that so much time had passed that she couldn't even imagine specifics from back in the day.
You know, and I can't even picture the conversation. I mean, I can't even picture the conversation.
At one point, she started getting confrontational.
Were you guys friends, close friends?
Yeah, we're very close friends.
Yeah?
I mean, what's this all about?
Well, it's a case we're working on. It involves John.
You don't have to, I mean, you know, you're here of your own free will. I mean,
no, I know, but I mean,
you're not under arrest. You can walk out
you
whenever
can leave
feel
whenever you like.
Well, I'm trying to give you some background of, how I knew him.
Eventually, the interrogators asked Lazarus if she was willing to give a DNA sample.
If we asked you for a DNA swab, would you be willing to give us one?
Maybe. Because now I'm thinking I probably need to talk to a lawyer.
Okay.
I mean,
when she tried to walk out, she was formally arrested.
I'm like in shock. I'm totally in shock.
Detectives assigned to the Los Angeles Police Department's Robbery Homicide Division, Cold Case Squad, arrested Los Angeles Police Detective Stephanie Lazarus.
Lazarus was charged with first-degree murder and tried in the LA County Superior Court. Her colleagues in the LAPD could not believe that they had been working alongside a murderer.
You're kidding. Absolutely kidding. A police officer committed this crime. I couldn't imagine that.
You'd been working just down the hall from the murderer you'd been looking for years.
Yes.
Stephanie Lazarus didn't quite serve and protect, did she?
No.
Lazarus pleaded not guilty, but the jury had a different conclusion.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Stephanie Eileen Lazarus, guilty of the crime of murder of Sherry Rasmussen.
And the reason for that was all the evidence collected by the Cold Cases Unit.
Their labors allowed us to prove, among other things, that the bullets used to murder Sherry were the type of bullets that the LAPD officers were required to carry in 1986. Their efforts also allowed us to demonstrate that the defendant's firearm matched the physical characteristics of the murder weapon in every respect.
At her sentencing, a statement from Sherry's father, Nels Rasmussen, was read in court.
Sherry was a beautiful, talented, gifted person and a loving daughter. Her senseless death caused pain that will never, ever heal.
John Rutan, now a much older man, delivered an emotional impact statement.
I'm John Rutan. The fact that Sherry's death occurred because she met and married me brings me to my knees. I have resigned myself to trying to endure the daydreams about a world where Sherry is still with us. And this pointless tragedy never occurred.
In the end, Stephanie Lazarus was sentenced to 27 years to life in prison. Stephanie Lazarus killed her lover's wife and did not face any consequences for 23 years. But what happens when a wife shoots her husband and burns his remains?
I've had 6+ years of being told not to talk. Not only my world, but my family's world was absolutely destroyed at the hands of one person.
Like in the case of Melody Farris, who was accused of murdering her husband and hiding his remains in a burn pile.
This is a murder. This is a heinous murder. He was shot, killed, put on a burn pile, and burned.
On July 2018, Scott Farris and his brother found their father Gary Farris's remains in a burn pile on the family property.
I saw teeth in the eye socket and I immediately put it right back. And I am calling 911 right now. Nobody's allowed down here.
A bullet hole was lodged in Gary's ribcage, and his blood was found all over the property.
And now this was being treated as a homicide.
It was no longer a question of whether Gary had been murdered.
You do not have to ask yourself, was Gary murdered?
The question was, who did it? And Melody's own son seemed to think that she was the one who killed his father.
At that point, did you suspect your mom?
Definitely.
Melody was arrested almost a year later and charged with malice murder alongside aggravated assault and hiding the death of another. During her trial, her relationship problems came to light.
He was very depressed, and he said that each day with my mother was pretty much the worst day of his life versus the day before. Like every day was the worst day of his life.
It was revealed that Gary and Melody didn't sleep in the same bed.
Their marriage is not good. They live in the same household, but they're not living really as husband and wife.
In fact, they lived on separate floors and often went days without seeing one another.
But they're living in separate rooms, separate floors. Gary lived in the bottom. He had a bedroom down there, he had a CPAP. He slept with that CPAP every night. We won't talk about that, but he stayed down in the bottom.
It was also revealed that Melody was having an affair with a man named Roy Barton, also known as Rusty.
They search her purse and they find, the things you think you find in a purse, but they find this bank card, credit card, debit card, whatever it is, his financial card. And they find the name Roy Barton on it.
Rusty was also the one who turned Melody to the police after she told him that her husband's body was in the burn pile.
The defendant was arrested, and you know that, don't you?
I do.
How do you know that?
I'm the one that carried her to the police station, turned her over to the police.
Rusty was cooperating with the cops and had agreed to record his calls with Melody.
And then when you met with him, you actually agreed to record calls between you and the defendant, is that right?
That is correct.
And they actually gave you a recorder to record calls, is that correct?
They did.
Yet, he warned her about the recorder on his phone.
But you tell her you're recording the phone calls, right?
I did.
So she knew she was being recorded, is that correct?
She knew that I tried. I never was successful at it.
Yeah, she knew you were recording the calls, right?
Rusty was eventually successful in recording his calls with Melody when the police swapped the physical recorder with digital software.
And then they had Calios, the software on your phone that would record calls without having a recorder. Would that be fair?
Yes.
And you recorded a lot of those calls, right?
The way I understood how this worked, they put something on my telephone from her through this system. Oops. Also went directly to Detective Hayes.
Those calls were indeed recorded and played in court with Rusty still on the stand.
I love you.
I love you too, buddy. I'm sorry you're in this.
Yeah, me too.
Aside from Rusty, Melody's other lover, Ted Wiley, also took the stand.
Good morning.
Morning.
You do not want to be here today, do you?
No, sir.
That's fair. Mr. Wiley, I'm not trying to embarrass you or do anything, but you know why you're here today?
Yes, sir.
Among other things, Wiley was asked about the duration of his affair with Melody.
How long did this romantic affair go on?
Probably 3 or 4 years.
And during that time, do you know whether or not Gary knew about the relationship?
I don't think anyone actually knew about it ever until this happened.
But perhaps the most important witness for the prosecution was the victim's son, Scott.
Scott, state your full name for the record.
Scott Walker Farris.
How old are you today?
41 years old.
And you know why you're here today?
Yes, sir, I do.
And would you identify your mother for the record, please? You see your mom sitting in court?
Yes, sir.
Just describe the clothing she's wearing.
She's wearing a gray jacket with a black shirt, glasses on her head, pearl necklace.
Scott highlighted that his mother and father were not on the best of terms.
You know, she would talk trash about my dad to me, to my sisters, my brother.
And he left no doubt that his mother wanted his father dead.
She came out of my dad's office doors and screaming and cussing, and she threw a plate up against the wall of the house, and she screamed, "I can't wait till the day he fucking dies. I can't wait till the day I don't have to live with him anymore."
Melody's defense tried to poke holes in the prosecution's narrative.
The questions that have no answers in this case. How about the easiest one? Where was Gary shot?
Her lawyer pointed out instances where DNA was not collected or made part of the evidence.
No DNA. Zero evidence whatsoever. There is nothing that indicates that tractor was used to move Gary Farris's body.
He also highlighted that the supposed murder weapon was stored in the victim's part of the house.
If you're planning to commit a murder, stores your murdering weapon in the living quarters of your victim. That is the most asinine thing I have ever heard.
The gun found in Gary's living quarters was never established as the murder weapon, and the real murder weapon was never found.
Where is the gun? No idea. How about where are the bullets? No idea.
Melody's defense tried to pin the murder on her son, Scott Farris, who had discovered the body and was the only other person at the house at the time of the shooting.
It's Scott Farris. He's sitting here today. All of it.
Scott had to defend his character, though he was not the one on trial.
Look at me. Do you have anything to do to help your mother dispose of and burn your father?
Absolutely not.
Tell them, not me.
No.
His main goal was to communicate why he thought his mother was the real killer.
Very often there was red flags prior to finding my dad. Her having his wallet.
Aside from having his wallet, she had the credit card that Scott's dad would never give his mom.
A lot of times my dad said, "Don't ever give her the credit card." And she had it. And I remember asking her, I go, "How do you have this?" She goes, "Well, your father gave it to me." And I knew that was a straight up lie.
Finally, it was time for the jury to decide whether Melody had killed her husband.
And we, the jury, as to count 1, find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 2, find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 3, we find the defendant guilty.
This went on for a while, and Melody's reaction betrayed a mix of sadness and surprise. At Melody's sentencing, prosecutor Megan Frankish read an emotional impact statement from the family of the victims.
Your Honor, since our father was taken from us, our lives have been filled with an unbearable void. Every day feels like a constant reminder of what we've lost. Gary was a father, grandfather, brother, uncle, friend, and colleague to many.
The letter emphasized all that Melody had taken from the family.
We miss his laughter, his warmth, and his presence in our lives. It's a pain that will never go away.
The courtroom camera captured Scott Farris's reaction as Frankish continued to read the statement.
There will be no more birthday parties, backyard gatherings, holiday celebrations, or other family activities to share together. Those opportunities to say I love you are forever gone.
The letter ended with a request for a strict sentence proportional to Melody's crime.
No sentence can ever bring our father back, but a just punishment can offer a semblance of closure and prevent another family from experiencing this unimaginable pain.
Then it was time for Melody to speak, and she chose to maintain her innocence.
I have waited for years to make this statement to everyone. Not only did I not do this, I know who did.
Then she accused her son Scott of murdering his father.
I know Scott killed his father. He took my husband, the father of Chris, Emily, and Amanda.
Finally, it was time for Judge David L. Cannon Jr. to announce Melody's sentence.
I don't have much latitude in sentencing. The legislature has spoken, and the penalty for murder is life. The only determination I have is whether I would be with parole or without parole.
The judge went with parole.
I don't believe this is the case that justifies a life without parole sentence, so I'm going to sentence to life with parole, or life with the possibility of parole.
But he could not control when Melody would be eligible for it.
Under the current guidelines and sentencing structure with them, a life sentence is a minimum 30 years before you would be considered for parole at this point.
64-year-old Melody would be eligible for parole in 2054, which means that she will probably never get out.
I recognize that that is likely a life sentence for you, but you'll have the hope and possibility of parole.
Melody Farris killed her husband and told her boyfriend about it. But how does that compare to a former ballerina killing her husband?
He said, "You're fucking done." And I held the gun out in front of me and it said, "Stop."
Like in the case of Ashley Benefield, who married and murdered Doug Benefield within years of meeting him. On September 27th, 2020, John Sant found a young woman at his doorstep.
Well, I heard a very loud pounding on my door, and I went and I opened the door.
And who was it?
It was Ashley.
She was crying and didn't even give John a chance to ask what happened.
As soon as I opened the door, before I could say anything, she said, "He attacked me."
And is that all she said?
At that point, I said, "Who?" He said, "Doug. He attacked me," and I shot him.
That's when John Sant called 911.
Manatee County 911, what is the address of your emergency?
Hi, my address is 11327. Her strange husband attacked her, and she says she shot him.
What is his name?
His name is Doug Benefield.
John cooperated with the operator while Ashley could be heard crying in the background.
Okay, I don't want you to go over there. Stay on the line just one moment. I'm going to connect you over to the sheriff's dispatch, okay?
Okay.
At one point, he could be heard comforting the woman.
Calm down, honey. Calm down. I know, honey. Calm down. I know. Come on. I know. Come on, honey. Sit down. Sit down.
Little did he know that the woman he was comforting had planned the whole thing.
And she did not want the father of this child to have any visitation. And everything she did from that point on was to attain that goal. She shoots him and kills him and claims self-defense.
Ashley was a former ballerina who had met the man of her dreams, 30 years older, Doug Benefield. Ashley was 24 at the time, and Doug was 54. The couple got married after just 13 days of dating. Doug had a daughter from his previous marriage, but reversed his vasectomy to have another one with Ashley.
Doug Benefield has his vasectomy reversed because they want a child.
Soon after, Ashley got pregnant and moved to Florida to live with her mother.
She moves to Bradenton, Florida to live with her mother so her mother can take care of her.
There, she gave birth while keeping Doug in the dark.
She never tells Doug. He doesn't even know his child is born.
The reason was that the couple's relationship was falling apart.
And you're going to see some text messages and hear some things. He's still trying to make this work. But she is having none of it.
The ballet company that Doug had started with Ashley had gone out of business.
But before it can actually take off, it falls apart.
She claimed that her husband had been poisoning her and that the child's health was at risk. On the basis of these claims, she filed for a restraining order against Doug.
She was trying to get a restraining order against Doug. Doug Benefield had not seen his child, had not met his child. So he did a cross complaint to say, please let me have contact with my child. I've never even met my child.
A hearing was set up, and the result wasn't what Ashley expected.
No, you are not getting a restraining order, and no, you cannot keep this man away from his child. And granted Doug Benefield immediate visitation with his daughter. He met his daughter for the first time she was 6 months old.
A big reason behind this was that none of Ashley's claims were substantiated.
There is not a single scintilla of credible evidence that Miss Benefield has ever been poisoned or suffered from any illness of any poison.
Doug, now cleared of the allegations, was free to be present in his daughter's life, which Ashley did not like.
You will hear that she was involved in 5 different complaints because now Doug has visitation with the child. So now these allegations are that Doug's abusing the child.
These claims were debunked as well, and Doug continued to have visitation.
Not one of these charges ever left law enforcement. No one has said that Doug cannot see this child, so there's still visitation going on.
But Ashley had other plans. She made it seem like she was trying to repair her relationship with Doug.
The problem was that is not what Ashley Benefield wanted. Although that's what she was portraying, that's not what she wanted.
The two even planned to move to Maryland together.
Ashley's mother had inherited a home in Maryland, and they were going to move to Maryland. Doug was also going to move to Maryland. They were going to continue to live separate.
So, on September 27th, 2020, Doug went to Ashley's Manatee County home to help her pack for the move.
Doug Benefield was going to Ashley's home to assist her in putting these things into the pod, putting these things into the U-Haul, because the plan was that they were all going to pack up in the next few days and move to Maryland. And it continued to try and work on their relationship.
Shortly after, she was at his neighbor's house claiming that she had shot him in self-defense.
As soon as I opened the door, before I could say anything, she said, "He attacked me."
And is that all she said?
At that point, I said, "Who?" He said, "Doug. He attacked me, and I shot him."
Ashley's self-defense angle did not convince the authorities, and she was charged with second-degree murder. The case went to court, where Ashley claimed she reenacted her version of the events.
And I held the gun out in front of me and said, "Stop." He got into this fighting pose where he turned sideways. And he was moving around with his arms in his hands. And he started inching forward towards me.
When asked what she meant by a fighting stance, Ashley said that Doug stood like a ninja.
Fighting stance?
Oh, he looks like a fighter. I don't know, like a ninja or something, I don't know.
Then she described what happened when she shot him.
Okay, where do his legs go?
In the air.
How high in the air?
I don't know.
Did they go over his head?
I don't know, it's like his feet slipped out.
Okay.
And his feet and his legs went up in the air.
And were you still shooting at the time?
I don't remember.
Ashley's attorney argued that all this happened because the defendant feared for her life.
Not once, but twice, Doug body checks Ashley. He passes her in the hallway, slams his shoulder into her shoulder, almost knocking her over.
The state presented a different story, highlighting that Ashley was the only one armed in that confrontation.
It was her gun. She had it from before. It's not like she took it away from Doug. It was her gun. And Doug Benefield was not armed. He had no gun, no knife, no club.
The prosecution also highlighted that Benefield wasn't even injured.
Law enforcement took pictures of her right after the shooting. And then again, you'll hear in a few days, they took more pictures. Because sometimes law enforcement, they know that bruises sometimes don't show up.
Doug's daughter from his previous marriage also shared her thoughts.
Did you ever see or hear your dad threaten her?
No.
Did you ever see or hear your dad get physical with her?
No.
No further questions.
The debate about Ashley had spilled out of the courtroom, with some activists seeing her as a hero for battered women. But ultimately, her fate was going to be decided in the courtroom.
The defendant never punched her, ever. Never choked her, never kicked her, never came at her with a knife, never came at her with a club, never came at her with a bat. And she was the only person armed in that room. Doug Benefield was not armed. He had no weapons.
Ashley tried to leave her home. Doug stopped her, spun her around, and held her trapped inside the house.
After hearing both sides, the jury spent roughly 6 hours deliberating before coming back with its verdict.
The defendant is guilty of manslaughter, a lesser included offense. Did Ashley Benefield actually carry a firearm? Yes. Did Ashley Benefield discharge a firearm? Yes. Did Ashley Benefield, as a result of discharging a firearm, cause death to Douglas Benefield? Yes.
On the day of her sentencing, Doug's first daughter, Ava Benefield, delivered an emotional impact statement.
I'm Eva Benefield, Doug's daughter. I'm the only one who can speak truthfully on behalf of my father and fight for his justice. What breaks my heart the most is thinking about how he found you at such a vulnerable part of his life, gave you everything you asked for. After you shot him while he was unarmed, he laid there bleeding out, unable to speak or to breathe, completely helpless and dying alone.
In the end, Ashley was sentenced to 20 years in prison, followed by 10 years of probation.
The sentence of the court will be as follows. I'm going to sentence you to 20 years in Florida State Prison. That's to be followed by 10 years of probation.
Many activists still side with Ashley and claim that she did indeed act in self-defense. Ashley Benefield killed her estranged husband and got a 20-year sentence. But what happens when a killer gets her boyfriend in the passenger seat before driving into a wall?
There's only one person who's responsible for the pain of everyone in this room, and that person is you, Mackenzie.
Like in the case of Mackenzie Shirilla, who was charged with the murder of 2 people in Ohio.
I'm not even cool. I'm just one of those girls that can do a lot of drugs and not die.
On July 31st, 2022, a Toyota Camry was seen in a Strongville neighborhood.
First, you can see the car making a normal right-hand turn here. Okay, everything's normal.
Behind the wheel was 17-year-old Mackenzie Shirilla with her boyfriend Dominic Russo and his friend Davian Flanagan. The car made a normal right turn and seemed to be moving under the speed limit.
Okay, everything's normal.
But then, all of a sudden, accelerating at over 100 miles per hour, the car went off the road and crashed into the side of a building. Shirilla's boyfriend Russo and his friend Flanagan died in the crash. Somehow, Shirilla survived, but with serious leg injuries. The incident was initially viewed as an accident, but a later investigation revealed that the driver had accelerated on purpose. Shirilla was arrested and charged with the murder of 20-year-old Dominic Russo and 19-year-old Davian Flanagan.
Case number 679612, known from juvenile detention.
The trauma surgeon who worked on Shirilla's medical report testified in court. According to her report, Shirilla wanted to die and felt responsible for killing her boyfriend.
Patient stated she, open quote, wanted to die, close quote, and that it was her fault for killing her boyfriend.
The defense denied intent and argued that the accident was caused by Shirilla without premeditation.
You just said and read that Mackenzie said it was her fault, correct?
I did read those words.
That's what it says. It didn't say that she purposely killed someone, did it?
Those words do not appear in that note.
Their position was that no one could tell what happened in the car that night.
We are really never going to know what happened in that car, much less prove by evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that she purposely drove that car.
They hinted at other factors that could have led to the crash.
Is it just kids being kids? Is it Dominic grabbing the steering wheel? Is it Mackenzie maybe speeding and saying, oh my God, dark out, it's light, I'm coming up to this, I better do something, and she goes like that to avoid an accident, not acting purposely, but in fact trying to avoid it? Is it sudden acceleration, panic? Those are all possibilities.
The verdict was up to Judge Nancy Margaret Russo, since this was a bench trial. She said that the defendant was aware of what she was doing and that her actions were intentional.
The video clearly shows the purpose and intent of the defendant. She chose a course of death and destruction that day. Mackenzie alone decided to push the pedal to the floor and demand the ultimate speed of that vehicle to 90 to 100 miles per hour.
Judge Russo went on to say that Shirilla wanted to kill Russo and Flanagan and maybe herself as well.
She intended to also kill herself is a matter of speculation. They have no relevance to the weighing of the evidence in this case. In the early morning hours of July 31st, 2022, her purpose was to kill Dominic Russo and Deacon Flanagan.
After that, she delivered the formal verdict.
At count one, tried to, pursuant to waiver, finds the defendant, Mackenzie Shirilla, guilty of murder to wit Dominic Russo.
At her sentencing, Flanagan's sister delivered an impact statement requesting the longest possible sentence for Shirilla.
I would like you to give Mackenzie the longest possible sentence. I've known her for about 3 years, and as she's always taken the easy way out. She will be eligible for parole, while my brother will be gone forever. Thank you, Your Honor.
Russo's brother took the stand and called Shirilla the most selfish person he knew.
Kenzie's statement in the hospital to Detective Azu, "Can't you just take my license away for 10 years or something?" That statement is Mackenzie Shirilla, the most selfish person I know. Ironically, Dom was the most selfish person I know.
Shirilla also got the chance to speak and read her letter of remorse.
The family so I'm so deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken. I love Dom and Davia. We were all friends, and Dom was my soulmate. I wish I can take all your pain away, and I'm so sorry.
Shirilla was given a sentence of 15 years to life in prison before being escorted out of the courtroom.
Thank you, Judge.
Thanks, guys.
Mackenzie Shirilla killed 2 people with her car. But what happens when a girlfriend uses her phone to kill her boyfriend?
I was talking to him on the phone when he killed himself, Liv. I heard him die.
Like in the case of Michelle Carter, who convinced her boyfriend to take his own life and then got close to his mother.
I did tell her that I appreciate her so much for being there for him and that she was such a positive person in his life. I didn't know that it was the opposite.
On July 13th, 2014, police found a young man's body inside his truck that was parked near the local Kmart. Breaking into the truck, the cops discovered that the young man was already dead.
I'd seen enough people that were gone to realize just by looking at him that he was gone, that there was nothing that anybody was going to be able to do for him.
The man, identified as 18-year-old Conrad Roy, had caused his own demise by filling the truck cabin with deadly fumes from a gas-powered water pump.
The deceased was found in a truck with the windows all rolled up.
And there was no sign of struggle, which led to the authorities concluding that Conrad's death was caused by none other than Conrad himself.
In the manner of death?
Yes, I marked that as suicide.
Okay.
Conrad's family was devastated.
And I just grabbed my sister and hugged her as tight as I could, and she...
How did you even wrap your mind around that?
You can't. There's no way. He was a kid. He was ours. He was our kid.
They had been under the impression that Conrad was getting better.
Did you see any improvement?
Yes. He seemed like he was getting better treatment.
He was socially anxious and struggled with depression.
I'm going to talk to you about social anxiety. Social anxiety, depression, it's controlling me.
Then one day, his aunt introduced him to Michelle Carter. Conrad and Michelle bonded over things they had in common, one of which was depression.
She suffered from depression, and she had an eating disorder. We know she took antidepressants.
When Conrad took his own life, Michelle reached out to his mother.
I am so very sorry. Conrad meant so much to me.
She also emailed Conrad's sister.
I am so sorry I didn't do enough to save him. I have never tried harder in my life to help fix someone.
Then she asked the Roy family for Conrad's ashes.
Yeah, she wanted to go through his room and take some of his belongings.
What did you all make of that?
That's when things started to get a little weird. It was like,
But things were about to get weirder.
One thing that she does is she begins organizing a charity baseball tournament for Conrad.
Her behavior at the fundraiser raised eyebrows as she seemed to bask in the attention that she was getting. She was smiling and posing for photos, which put her on the case investigators' radar. That fall, they visited her high school and interviewed her.
Do you think you had contact with him that day?
I think so.
But her story was full of holes, so they decided to go through her cell phone, in which they found a particularly damning text.
His death is my fault. Like, honestly, I could have stopped him. I was on the phone with him, and he got out of the car because it was working, and he got scared, and I effing told him to get back in.
But Michelle had deleted the texts she had exchanged with Conrad, so the investigators contacted the officer who found his body.
I got the call the next day from Detective Gordon. He wanted to know where the phone was. He had gotten the code from the family. I told him where it was, and of course the rest is history.
In his phone were thousands of texts in which he shared his darkest thoughts with Michelle.
She says, "Conrad, hey, you there?" He responds, "Hey, sorry, I fell asleep." She says, "It's okay. Why haven't you done it yet, though?" He says, "I'm too messed up to." She says, "What are you talking about?" He says, "My head." She says, "You can't think about it, you just have to do it. You said you were gonna do it, like I don't get why you aren't." He says, "I don't get it either. I don't know." She says, "So I guess you aren't gonna do it then, all that for nothing. I'm just confused, like you were so ready and determined." He then responds, "I am gonna eventually. I really don't know what I'm waiting for, but I have everything lined up."
Initially, Michelle had tried to talk Conrad out of harming himself.
Conrad, stop. You're not gonna do it. I know you won't. I don't want you to.
No, I actually am.
You have so much to live for. Please don't.
She kept trying to talk him off the ledge for 2 years.
I'm never going to be better. I have to accept that.
You're in a dark tunnel, but it's not gonna last forever. You'll find the light someday.
She even encouraged him to get professional help.
You aren't gonna get better on your own. You need professional help like me. People who know how to treat it and fix it.
However, Conrad did not want professional support and told Michelle not to seek help for him.
And the only way I'd hate you is if you told people about this. You hear me?
I'm not gonna tell anyone, because if I did, then you'd have to go to a hospital, and I know that's not what you want.
Eventually, she got desensitized and even started calling his bluff.
She actually begins to almost agree with him. Like, okay, so you want to kill yourself? When are you going to do it? How are you going to do it?
At one point, she even began suggesting ways for Conrad to end it all.
I don't get why you don't just overdose again, but go somewhere in private. You already know it works.
Even this went on for a while.
You're really gonna do this?
Yeah.
Okay, there's no turning back now.
At one point, Conrad started backing away from the idea, but Michelle started pushing him towards it.
I knew you weren't gonna try hard. I feel like such an idiot.
Why?
Because you didn't even do anything. And I poured my heart out to you thinking this was gonna be the last time I talked to you. I thought you really wanted to die, but apparently you don't. I feel played and just stupid.
Some of the texts bordered on bullying.
Tonight?
Eventually.
See, that's what I mean. You keep pushing it off.
And it continued right up until Conrad's death.
"Are you gonna do it now?" He responds, "I haven't left yet, haha." Michelle says, "Why?" He then says, "Leaving now." She tells him, "Okay, you can do this."
And when he started to have second thoughts and left the truck, she convinced him to go back in and follow through with his choice to end it all.
That is the saddest part of this whole story. The truck is filling up with carbon monoxide, and he gets out. And she tells her friend Sam that she told Conrad to get back in the truck.
Michelle Carter was charged with involuntary manslaughter. She waived her right to a jury trial and chose to put her fate in the hands of Judge Lawrence Moniz. After hearing both sides, the judge gave his verdict.
Having reviewed the evidence and applied the law thereto, now finds you guilty on the indictment charging you with the involuntary manslaughter of the person Conrad Roy III.
But it wasn't all bad news for Michelle, who got a surprisingly lenient sentence. She was given a very lenient sentence of 2.5 years.
Ms. Carter, a guilty finding having entered on the indictment charging you with the involuntary manslaughter of Conrad Roy III, now sentences you to 2.5 years in the Bristol County House of Correction.
This was painful for Conrad's family, who spoke at Carter's sentencing with hopes of a strict sentence.
I cannot begin to describe the despair I feel over the loss of my son. I am heartbroken. Our family is heartbroken.
Not a day goes by
without him being my first thought waking up and my last thought going to bed. Throughout those 13 years with him, I have countless amazing memories that will always be with me.
The sentence of 2.5 years did not satisfy the victim's family.
The verdict came guilty. There was hope that there might be some justice. And from what we're feeling right now, as long as you're under 18, it's okay to bully anyone, and you're just going to get a slap on the wrist.
On top of that, her penalty was later reduced to 15 months. She served out her sentence and was released on January 23rd, 2020.
Michelle Carter, a free woman. She walked out of the Bristol County House of Correction this morning after serving less than a year of a 15-month sentence.
Today, Michelle Carter is a free woman.